Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be doing a review and install video for reupholstering seats in the Miata. And these are eBay special reupholstery material. This is a vinyl and it came from eBay and it was $140 shipped. So as you can see, they're not perfect, but they're pretty good actually. I've had no comments whatsoever on the quality of the seats. Everybody thinks it looks good. There's a few wrinkles which I could probably take out and make look better with some additional padding, but overall they came out pretty well. So let's get into what I did for the install. We are cleaning off these runners. This is the seat from the Miata, and as you can tell, it's a leather tan seating that came with it, and it's pretty tweaked. Stitches is all coming out. Technically this could be restitched, but honestly there's things like this, these gouges, this cracking is horrible. It's not worth it. We're also going to do a foamectomy during this process, and so the first part is simply removing the four 14mm bolts out of the car, and it lifts right out. And we're cleaning it off. We're gonna get the drill bit brush to clean off all this, and then we're gonna paint this before we do anything. Okay, we got the seat back off of the top or the bottom, and now
right here.
Yep, we're gonna cut all these little hog rings. So basically this just involved taking off these bolts, which involve sliding this up and down to get to the top ones and the bottom ones. There's 4 of those, and they're right here, these little ones. And this goes on the right side facing the seat as you would be sitting down, the left side if you're sitting in the seat. This is on the left side, and then these little screws go to here and to this.
I go party right there.
No, you can go in the house. I think that would be fine. Now we're just gonna remove hog rings here, and here, here. Sorry, here, and here, and here, and here, and here. So many. And then we're gonna brush this down, get all this rust off of here. Alright, so now we've got all the hog rings on the back cut off, and all we did was simply peel this back to expose these rings that are attached to this little tab that keeps the leather seated into the bolster. Okay, so this is about 2 or 3 minutes worth of hitting it with the drill and a wire brush attachment, a couple different drills. Today we're going to be using this rust reformer from Rust-Oleum. Basically it just says that you have to take off loose rust. You know, it doesn't have to be perfectly clean bare metal. And we're going to wipe this down with some soapy water and a microfiber towel just to get all that powder off. Do not do this without having a respirator like this and some eyewear. This is a dusty job, and you will be breathing all this stuff into your lungs, and this will be coming out of your nose for about 5 days. So don't do this without a respirator. Don't get one of those little paper masks. Get a real respirator. They cost 20 bucks. That's it. All right, about ready for paint. What I've done, just hang this up and washed it off, dried it, hit it with a heat gun actually to make sure it's dry, because I don't want to wait around for 9 hours, because according to the weather, the relative humidity is 85%. So not ideal painting conditions, but we will go for it. Here's what we got after it's dried. We sprayed this down. The stupid can, which was supposedly a new can, ran out after single coat. Not even a thick coat. Just, and also it was spraying really badly, so I don't know what was wrong with that can. I'm gonna have to pick up another can for the other one. We basically got it done though. There's a couple little patches that are a little lighter than I would have liked, but we've got this, and it's looking a lot better. Now, this is vinyl, but it looks pretty nice. This is not bad. Better than I expected. It's eBay. It's an eBay set. I think it was $140 off of eBay for the set, and it looks, you know, not bad. This has came with absolutely no instructions. It doesn't. It's not even labeled left or right, so you kind of have to just spend a few minutes figuring out which side goes with which. The bottom is sort of easy because of this. This hole goes over this, so you know kind of where it's supposed to go. But the other one, the seat backs look identical. The only difference is the headrest zipper. That's the only difference I could find between left and right. The zipper, I believe, should start on the inboard side. So when you're in the car, the zipper head, when it's fully zipped, should be on the inboard side above the transmission tunnel. So we got the seat cushion out to the bottom, and what we're going to do is what's called a foamectomy. So we're going to take out the foam. I'm going to do it from the underside. So this part goes into the base of the seat, and it kind of sits down in there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cut this out so it's flat, so that this seat, the whole seat pushes down into that little cavity as you sit into it, and it's going to, you know, reduce your ride height of how you sit in the seat by about that much, about an inch. And it's going to improve the bolstering here on the side. As you're sitting farther down in here, these bolsters are going to feel like they're doing a lot more. So we're going to cut this out, this foam out, with a serrated knife, and I'm just taking a big bread knife basically, and I'm going to saw through this and cut it so it's mostly flat. We've got some delightful weather. Alright, so comparing the two seat covers, I've got them, this is for the passenger seat, inside out, which is basically what you had to do to take it off to get all those hog rings out. And there's some differences. This one had a bunch of hog rings on the inside. This is the bottom crease basically on the side of the seat, and it holds it down in there tight. So this one doesn't really have that. It doesn't have this plastic. This is a hard plastic right here, so it won't pull out. This one just has the seam, and the same up here. There's a bunch of hog rings here, again with hard plastic. This one, not so much. Well, this is the trial fit. Like I said, there's no hog rings down in here. I don't have any kind of thing holding it into these creases. And this side is not horrible. I think once I get the zip ties in here, this will stretch and it'll seem fine. But this side is, what is up with this? Super loose. And there didn't seem to be anywhere for this to go. Look at it here. Flip this over here. Let's see what we got on the back. So this has a flap, and basically the way this works on the original seat is that these flaps went under the rails. So there's some holes cut out here, which I can cut out a hole for this where the bolt hole goes, so that that little thing can go there. This one's already got this cut out, and basically on the original, these two went into this, looped into this, sorry for my horrible camera work, into this little hook right there. This side, however, doesn't even have that flap, which I guess is okay. I guess they decided it wasn't necessary, but at the same time, this is the side that's loose. So may actually be necessary. So yeah, I guess I need the zip tie. Do need to try to zip tie in those creases so that this will pull tighter down, and then when I do this, what I'm going to do, see, this is where it's supposed to go. I guess I can put zip ties underneath. You can't put it above the rails because that has to slide, and I'm sure it's going to get caught on something. I might be able to put zip ties below, but that to hold it, but I guess we almost have to go with what they intended, which is nothing on this, along this edge. All right, here's what I ended up with. So it was definitely not working without something down into the creases here. And what I ended up doing was looping these zip ties around the interior part, and there's no cable thing like there is on the back that this will go around. Like this tube is meant to hold it in place, so this may pull out. I'm hoping that it won't, because once everything else is buttoned down and there's so many of them that it's going to distribute any stresses. Most of these stresses are up and down, not side to side at this point, because once everything's in there, it should be pretty solid. I did the back first, and that had this piece of black material to go through, some synthetic nylon or something like that. And so I zipped it down so that it'd be tight in there, so it'd be lined up correctly. And I took the whole thing out, the foam out of the tray, the bottom tray, just so that it would be a little bit easier to work with. I could kind of feel it from the bottom side and so on as I was getting these zip ties through. And when I feed the zip ties through, I would use some of these to pull it on the other side and pull it out. That worked pretty well. And then I use this little awl to poke a hole in each one, and then run the zip tie through. So we're gonna zip these down now. So we've got this. I'm gonna zip it up from the back first, and this has to be. You see how this is on the outside of this seam? Because otherwise, if it's on the inside of the seam, you would see the zip tie on the inside of there. Maybe you wouldn't, because it's down deep in the seat, but I wasn't going to risk it. Okay, finished bottom seat. Been playing with this for a while. It's not horrible. This side is pretty good. The middle, pretty good. The back is good. This side's still a little wrinkly. I'm hoping this will kind of settle down because there's no tension on it, so it may kind of shrink up over time, something like that, as you sit down in here. The only part that's really screwed up is the front. Now luckily it's pretty hard to see that from the car. At any angle, if you're looking in the car, you're going to be looking down at the seat. So it's going to look like this most all the time, because you can't, as soon as you get to here, first of all, you're above it farther, and as soon as you get to here, you're hitting the car, so no one's seen that part really. So hopefully it's not too horrible. I mean, the vinyl's nice. All right, so fast forward to the seat back. This is it off, actually, and here's what we have. There's actually a pad. It's right in here. The seat back kind of lumbar supports, and if you're doing the foamectomy, you can actually just take this whole thing out if you want. I'm going to try that and see what that feels like. If not, I can try to put it back together. I noticed that the new seat has a little bit of padding in this area anyway. Not much, it's like about that much, as opposed to more than an inch and a half. But so we'll get kind of like the ghetto bucket effect and learn something new every day. At some point this had factory headrest speakers. They were unplugged when I got the car, and there's only one in this particular, in the passenger seat. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know if this one's working or not. Doesn't matter. It's probably horrible. I don't know. Now I have to decide whether I want to try to replace those, find something that'll fit in there, and hook it up. Luckily, it is easy to do once the wiring's already there because this unzips. And I didn't think I had it because no perforations. It's not perforated. So it does have a zipper, which I looked and I didn't even see the zipper when I was buying the car. It looked like it was on there so tight that you couldn't really see it. So that's interesting. I missed that. But the new seats have the perforations so that the sound can actually go through it a little bit better, and so that might be something to think about. Otherwise, this thing is in pretty good shape. There's no cracks or anything. So the way it works is that there's a ton of hog rings, of course, go all the way around, all the way up the top, and then there are 3 more up here, which allowed this whole thing to come off. Okay, this one's turning out to be kind of similar to the seat bottom. It's missing place where you can put in these hog rings. There were 3 hog rings before on the original seat, and this is a little lumpy without that. I think once it goes down in there, I think it'll be a lot tighter. But when you have this zipped, it's still kind of poofy. I've got this pretty much down as far as it's going to go. Obviously, it's more poofy now because this is out, but it is still kind of got extra material, sort of. So I think this has to be pushed down into here. Unlike the other ones, the bottom, this one has a nice little rod that goes through here. These plastic rods, and there's one here, one there, and then one on the back. And that means it's going to go together a lot better than the other one at the bottom. All right, and here are the both seats done and back in the car. So, as I said originally, if you're looking for it, you can see those little zip ties at the bottom, but really not noticeable. I never ever see them if I'm just like getting in and out of the car, that kind of thing. You just don't see it. The other thing I had to do was I took some nylon or whatever, kind of an artificial batting that you pick up from like a fabric store or something like that, and I just stuffed it in to places that were wrinkled. So I stuffed it down into the sides, stuffed it in the back, I stuffed it in behind the seat, so on, to fill that out. And you can just kind of shove it in there until it looks nice and tight, and then it's all good. So for $140, yeah. It was a little time consuming with all the hog rings and zip ties, that you had to deal with, but not bad. You would have to go through the same physical work with the $500 set, and so, saved a good bit of money. These things are holding up pretty well, and anyway, that's how you can install eBay special vinyl reupholstery seat covers on your NA Miata. Thanks a lot.